Welcome back to the Daily Rundown with me, Dan Morfitt, and the brilliant guests, Joe Toms-Ashcroft and Mike Milling. It actually says brilliant guest on the script.
We are brilliant.
Oh, it's the first time I've ever been called that before.
Brilliant.
Oh.
Right, our next story is serious. First, they came for BBC Three. No one cared. In fact, we're on Channel 7 on Freeview right now. Hiya! Then they came for Formula One. No one cared. The BBC today decided to close BBC Food and remove 11,000 recipes from the internet. And people have gone balmy. Over 120,000 signatures today alone has called for the site to be kept open. Heck. This is all part of £15 million worth of savings, including the closure of specific Newsbeat online service and the BBC News magazine. Now, the BBC have now said that all those recipes will be archived via the BBC Good Food external website. So, is this all just a big storm in a pie dish?
So it's just moving to another website?
Yeah. Well, they said earlier on today to make this £15 million worth of savings, they were going to just close it down, mothball it. They were going to remove them from the internet. And then throughout the day, they just went, well, we just won't make them visible on the website. Then they went, well, you'll be able to search for them online, but we won't really make a point of putting them there. And then it's just gone, we're going to put them on another website. Yeah. And BBC Good Food is an external website owned by BBC Worldwide and the magazine and stuff like that. So
I didn't actually know there was a difference between the BBC Good Food and BBC Food up until that point. And because it's quite strange that because those two dominate the food kind of recipe, between the pair of them already. I think BBC Good Food's like number 1 and BBC Food's number 3. It's like, there don't need to be two of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap.
But it crossover. I was just surprised that 120,000 signatures.
There are other websites available as well. Channel 4's Scrapbook, where you can put all of Jamie's recipes and stuff like that. But reading about this today, originally it wasn't about food at all or recipes. It was a big computer project to make a really, really good online database system. And they just found out that the recipes work perfectly for it. And now they wanted to get rid of it.
Right.
Are you going to be lost without their recipes? Are you going to be lost without James Martin's perfect mac and cheese recipe?
I don't know what you were going to say there. I have used it in time, and my partner uses the website a lot. Because they have so many cookery programs on the BBC, don't they? They have MasterChef and all that, and so it was a good way of tying it all in, wasn't it? And then you'd see something on a program, then you'd go to the website. So I don't know, how are they going to cut down on cookery programs on the television?
One could hope, except for Nigella. But it's the weird thing. It's the BBC under attack again, and this has seemed like the smallest little straw that broke the donkey's back. Yeah. Everybody's gone apoplectic with rage about this today, Joe.
Well, it's the thing you search for. Whenever you search for any recipe, the first one that will invariably pop up on various search engines, Bing.
Bing,
yeah, good old Bing. It's always a BBC one. It's always a BBC one. And it's kind of I think because it's just a reflex now, I think, for people, where it's like, right, I need a recipe, BBC recipe, done.
But surely that just shows that the BBC are good at that job, where the private sector are sort of missing out on. Now, there has been a small coincidence marked today. Rupert Murdoch is actually linked to two projects that are ready to launch in the UK. One's called Best Recipes and one's called Taste, which is linked to the supermarket Sainsbury's.
That's got nothing to do with it.
Right.
However, he owns those two brands in Australia. So people are putting 2 and 2 together and getting 17.
Right.
So it's a little bit weird that the BBC are getting pressure to close even BBC News beats because they're saying youth can get their news from elsewhere. It's is it just another reason to give the BBC a kick in?
Well, Murdoch trying to give him a kicking. Well, he does, seem to enjoy it quite a little bit. This sort of game that's sort of going on, I think, at the moment with the BBC and the sort of various things. There's a lot of public outcry about everything that's going on at the moment with the white paper that came out, because that kind of suddenly, it was like, we're going to kill the BBC. Actually, that's a bad idea. We'll leave it alone for a little bit. And I think this is like a much, much smaller version of it today. We're going to kill this section of the BBC.
People just think that it's slyly, slowly being deconstructed, and it's a bit sneaky. And we'll just take the recipes out there, and we'll take something out there, and then, it's gone.
Yeah. What's the point, though, of closing a website that we all, by the sounds of it, use here? We know they've got thousands of recipes. we've already paid for them as TV license payers. What's the point of taking them offline now? It just seems to be going, you've had your fun, now we're taking it away. Go and look on the commercial websites. It's a bizarre way of doing things.
Yeah.
And it's also going to make them a lot more money, actually, now.
Because it's on the Good Food website.
Because it's on the Good Food website.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they can sell advertising now for it because it goes around the world. So it's actually going to work out pretty well for them, this whole situation.
The big thing I don't understand about any of this report is they want to make £15 million worth of savings. How much does keeping recipes online cost? That costs about £100 a recipe. Honestly, just print it out and laminate it. 15 million. I don't know anything about server sizes, but it can't really cost that much. There can't be people in Broadcasting House and Salford Keys whose whole job is to go, 3 cups of margarine, not 4.
I want that job, if that is the job.
Yeah.
I'd do that tomorrow.
Joe at the BBC are coming in and saying no. Right, let's move on to our next story, which is sort of food-based. Ish. Magic mushrooms have lifted severe depression in a dozen volunteers in a clinical trial, raising scientists' hopes that the psychedelic experiences beloved of the Aztecs and hippie counterculture of the 70s could one day become mainstream medicine. The researchers said that they did not know whether the effect of the drug was caused by chemical changes in the brain or whether the psychedelic experience, which people describe as spiritual or mystic, gives them a new perspective. Now, in spite of the outcome, the researchers have urged people not to try magic mushrooms themselves. All volunteers involved had failed to improve on at least 2 types of antidepressants. So, are we concerned or excited about this? In a medical way of speaking.
Right. Well, I actually took some about half an hour ago, and
some antidepressants.
No, yeah. So the show's going really, really cool for me right now. You're a massive lizard, but no. But I don't know, if these things help. You hear a lot about like marijuana and how that helps, medicinal, and that's good for, the
pain
medical
relief and things,
glaucoma or whatever.
Works with pain. And
Exactly. And I think I was reading, there was a guy who, it sounds weird saying experimented on, but there was a guy who took them and he was dealing with a lot of depression, a lot of grief, and it did help him. But it's one of those things that it affects different people. And hallucinogenics, psychedelic drugs, everyone who is different when you take them. So some people react well with them and some people don't.
It's difficult because you can never have a control in these situations.
Exactly.
Because they couldn't do a placebo test because they couldn't tell, because it'd be too easy to spot who was and who wasn't on it.
Or they could just give them some, I don't know, Welsh mushrooms, closed cup, shiitakes. You never know.
Yeah. So it's hard to manage, I guess, because it is so different for every individual person. Whether you're talking magic mushrooms or LSD or anything like that,
LSD was originally developed as an antipsychotic, as a drug that was supposed to help.
And look at creativity wise. I mean, look at all the great writers that were hooked on opium, or the great musicians, Jimi Hendrix.
Died at 27.
Let's leave that for now. but
Yin and yang.
Yeah, was he depressed? Probably, I don't know. But but you know what I mean. It spreads creativity as well. There are good elements. I don't think that you should. I don't know. I think the minute you say drugs, obviously drugs are bad. We shouldn't be giving drugs to people, but they can help certain people.
Joe, are you excited about this? Because by the looks of the findings, 12 people is a very small group when it comes to clinical medical testing, but 5 people out of these 12, even 3 months after the experiment had finished, had found that they were no longer feeling as depressed as they were before.
Well, I think anything that helps to tackle depression in any sort of way, shape or form is fundamentally going to be a good thing. And I also think it's a very good thing, as you were sort of mentioning before, drugs are bad, mustn't do drugs. And that's often been the party line, going back decades. You look at things like the war on drugs, that's caused a lot more damage than it's, than it's kind of alleviated. Having then to reevaluate things like marijuana, like magic mushrooms, things like that, where it's like, okay, actually, let's look at the actual breakdown of what's in them and what can be used to help. And that's what I don't think we've ever really properly done before. We've just been,
scaremonger first.
Scaremonger first, rather than actually look, okay, well, a lot of this is naturally occurring. A lot of it's not naturally occurring in certain things. Let's look at what these can do to help with conditions which are so prevalent at the moment and are causing so much, damage to society, much more damage than is often given
Well,
credit for.
that's often the line that people who want regulation and licensing to come about of normal drugs. And you hit upon something there. Magic mushrooms are natural. Hemp and cannabis is a natural thing.
Yeah.
We've just seen recently moves, quite rightly in my opinion, that the government have made a lot of legal highs illegal.
Yeah.
They're made up of
all
made up
kinds.
of massive chemical compounds, and then we see the opposite happening in America, where more and more states are making medical marijuana a possibility. They're bringing in tax dollars in the millions from it and alleviating pain and suffering of lots and lots of people. So maybe this is the start of maybe looking upon drugs not as being a bad thing, but maybe as a help for the future in normal medicine.
Yeah. And it's about as you say, it's about distinguishing between bad drugs or whatever and what can be used to help and what is within
Just
those.
how you use them. How
Yeah.
you use them more than anything else, I think.
But it's exciting, but it is only a small study so
Very
far.
small.
So, if you're suffering from depression, get proper help. It doesn't mean get on the next ferry to Amsterdam. It's seek proper medical help first. Right, it's time for another break now, but we'll see you again in just a couple of minutes on the Daily Rundown with Mario Movie Magic and Twitter getting bigger.